Elizabeth City, North Carolina, was the sort of place where folks left their porch lights on at night and trusted their neighbors. Nestled along the calm Pasquotank River, this tight-knit community had weathered generations of storms together. It was a place where secrets usually didn't stay buried for long. At the center of this peaceful town was Milton Sawyer, respected, friendly, the kind of man who'd lend you $1 or a prayer if you needed one. Milton ran an antiques and collectibles store, the Treasure Hunter, where his natural charm drew customers from all walks of life. He had a quick joke, an easy smile, and a talent for turning vintage coins and sports memorabilia into enough money to support his big, blended family. Milton had been married once before and raised kids who adored him. Then he met Angel, a striking woman nearly 10 years younger, who was a mother of 4 herself and nursing wounds from a failed marriage. Their kids went to the same school, and what started as chit-chat at the carpool lane blossomed into friendship, then something more. Milton fell hard. Angel had a magnetic pull. She was lively and pretty, a woman who turned heads. Friends described her as warm, devoted, maybe a little high maintenance. But Milton didn't mind. He saw in Angel the possibility of a fresh start, a second chance at love. They married in 2012, blending their 2 broods into one chaotic household of 7 kids, teenage tantrums, sleepovers, soccer games, and scraped knees. Angel worked beside Milton in the antique shop, helping organize shelves, listing items on eBay, and learning the rhythms of the business. From the outside, they looked unstoppable, hard-working, close-knit, and determined to build something special. But the bright, happy photographs told only part of the story. By 2017, tiny cracks had begun to show. Angel was restless. The shop demanded long hours and attracted sketchy customers, down on their luck people, hustlers, and addicts looking to pawn anything. Milton welcomed all comers with open arms, but Angel worried. It was around then that Angel was injured in a minor car accident and started physical therapy. There she met Isaac Melcher, a 38-year-old therapist, a married father of 3 who seemed respectable, gentle, and religious even. Isaac had a soft way about him, a kind voice, strong hands, and eyes that seemed to listen. His patients trusted him, and Angel was no exception. At first, their conversations were perfectly ordinary, stretches, dry needling, and talk of sore shoulders. But soon, Angel confided in him about her frustrations, her husband's jealousy, and the endless grind of family life. Something about Isaac made her feel seen, respected, desired. For Isaac, the attraction was instant. Angel was beautiful, confident, and fragile in ways he felt drawn to protect. And soon they crossed a line. A stolen moment in the clinic's supply closet. Then more. They snuck away in cars, parking lots, and behind closed doors, pretending the world couldn't see. They told themselves it was love. Maybe it was. Maybe it was lust. But either way, it was explosive. Like many affairs, theirs was messy, tangled, half dream and half nightmare. Isaac claimed Angel told him Milton was controlling, even abusive. Angel insisted she wanted out but couldn't bear the shame of being divorced twice. They whispered impossible fantasies of running away together, of finally being free. But there was a problem. Milton stood in the way. Somehow the conversations turned darker. Isaac began to talk about removing Milton from the picture. Angel didn't exactly tell him to stop. She didn't exactly say yes, either. But silence, sometimes, is its own kind of permission. One night, after a long day at the antique store, Milton and Angel came home tired, picking up fast food on the way for the kids, who were mostly off at friends' houses. The couple tried to unwind, watching a Game of Thrones marathon on the couch. Milton, as always, was affectionate. He teased Angel, reached for her hand, and pulled her close. But Angel's mind was far away, buzzing with dread and anticipation. In her phone were messages from Isaac. Tonight they read, "I can't wait any longer." She typed back nothing. Maybe that meant no. Maybe it meant yes. Maybe it meant do what you will. And that was all Isaac needed. It was after 11:30 p.m. when Angel got up to get a snack. The kids weren't home. The house was silent except for the TV. That was when the back door swung open. A masked man dressed in black, moving with a kind of clumsy urgency, stepped into their lives like a demon let loose. Angel froze. Milton leapt up from the couch, confused and angry. Who the hell? On the ground. Now, the masked man screamed. The voice was hoarse, but Angel recognized it instantly. Isaac. Her stomach clenched. This was really happening. Milton tried to reason with him, hands raised, calm and steady. But the masked man lunged, smashing the butt of a pistol across Milton's temple. The big man fell stunned. Duct tape was torn from a roll, loud as a gunshot in the quiet house. Isaac taped Milton's wrists, forced him to the bathroom, and shoved him face down on the floor. Milton's confusion turned to horror. "Angel," he called, muffled eyes pleading. "Please, what is this?" Angel stood frozen in the hall, hands over her mouth. Isaac's breathing was wild, like an animal cornered. He looked at Angel with a terrifying intensity. "It's the only way," he hissed. Then he knelt on Milton's back, wrapped an arm around his throat, and squeezed. Milton thrashed, powerful arms struggling, but he was bound. He tried to shout, but no sound came except a ragged gurgle. Angel turned away, tears streaming down her face, until the sound stopped and only a deadly silence filled the bathroom. Isaac jumped to his feet, breathing hard, and began tearing drawers open, scattering jewelry and coins. "We have to make it look like a robbery," he panted. Angel nodded, numb, her brain floating like she was outside her own body. He wrapped tape around her wrists too, gentler than with Milton, then slapped her hard across the face. She fell to the floor, dazed, tasting blood. Isaac was talking, something about shop keys, about making it believable, but she couldn't hear him. The world was spinning, collapsing. Minutes later, Isaac was gone, slipping out into the night. Angel forced herself to her feet, stumbled across the street to the neighbor's house, and banged on the door like a woman possessed. "Help. Please help." The police came fast. Sirens broke the quiet of the neighborhood, blue and red flashing against brick walls and sleepy windows. Officers found Milton face down, cold, blue, bound in tape. They found Angel, shaking, bruised, and babbling a story of a home invasion gone wrong. Might have worked, but there were too many things that didn't add up. The back door showed no signs of forced entry. A spare key was on a table by the porch. The only items missing were pieces of cheap jewelry, nothing of real value. Then there was the autopsy. Strangulation, not gunshots or a stabbing. Slow, personal, hateful. Police interviewed Angel again and again. Each time, tiny cracks appeared in her story. Detectives dug into their phones, their messages, their calls. What they found stunned them. Secret Facebook chats. Flirty texts. Late-night phone calls. Isaac Melcher, the kindly physical therapist, was no stranger. He was a lover. Isaac tried to run. After the killing, he left town, fled to Oregon to see his mother, and tried to wash away the guilt thousands of miles from the scene of the crime. But he couldn't keep it in. He confessed, first to an old youth pastor, Lou, in Oregon, who listened in disbelief as Isaac spilt every ugly detail. "I killed him," Isaac sobbed. "I did it for Angel." Lou went to the police. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done. Detectives flew out, confronted Isaac, and pressed him until he broke again. "Yes," he told them. "I did it." She knew. She wanted it. Back in North Carolina, detectives went to Angel. They showed her the text messages, the confession, and the phone logs. They told her Isaac was in custody and that he had named her as the co-conspirator. Angel's face went pale. Her shoulders sagged. She tried to protest, that she hadn't meant for any of it to happen, that she never asked him to kill Milton. But by then the police had heard enough. They charged Angel Sawyer with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The woman who once seemed the perfect wife was now the most hated name in town. Elizabeth City reeled. At the antique shop, people left flowers on the door, candles flickering on the sidewalk. Friends wept for Milton, remembering his laugh, his jokes, and how he loved to brag about his kids. Church groups prayed for the Sawyer children, whose lives had been shattered overnight. Angel's own family stood stunned, trying to square the woman they knew with the accused conspirator behind bars. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Angel Sawyer went on trial. Prosecutors painted her as a manipulative seductress who spun Isaac around her finger and who orchestrated her husband's murder to avoid the stigma of a second divorce. The defense tried to argue that she was a terrified pawn, drawn into Isaac's twisted obsession. But the evidence felt damning. The secret chats, the confessions, the moment-by-moment replay of that night. When Isaac took the stand, the air went out of the room. He described in clinical detail how he had planned the killing, how Angel had told him that Milton would never let her leave, and how she had nodded, not quite agreeing but not quite stopping him either. 4 days they argued over whether Angel had truly ordered a murder, or whether Isaac alone had twisted fantasy into deadly action. In the end, the jury found her guilty. Guilty of conspiracy. Guilty of first-degree murder. They sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Isaac took a deal, agreeing to testify against Angel in exchange for a 25-year sentence. In the weeks after sentencing, Angel tried to appeal, insisting she had been manipulated and that she had no real part in the plan. But the weight of the evidence and the fury of the community left her with few allies. Milton's children tried to rebuild their lives, clinging to old home movies of him, a laughing father telling silly jokes, hugging them tight. The house on Darien Drive sat empty, a hollow shell. Neighbors walked past with shivers, remembering how quickly a dream home had become a crime scene. Just when it seemed the story was over, a letter arrived at a local reporter's mailbox. The handwriting was neat and controlled. The return address was a women's prison in Raleigh. It was from Angel. Inside one chilling line: "There is still so much you don't know." The letter was short, barely half a page, but it sent a shiver through everyone who read it. "There is still so much you don't know," Angel had written in neat, rounded script. Reporters scrambled to interpret it. Was she confessing to something more? Hinting at her innocence? Or threatening to expose secrets she'd kept buried until now? Elizabeth City buzzed with fresh rumors. Some said Angel planned to turn on Isaac completely. Others wondered if a new conspirator might be named. Whatever the truth was, that cryptic letter meant one thing: this story wasn't over. In prison, Angel lived under constant watch. The guards knew her face from the news. Other inmates knew her story too. Some respected her, others whispered behind her back. Angel tried to keep her head down, working in the laundry room, avoiding fights and scribbling letters to anyone who would listen. She kept replaying the night Milton died in her mind. Over and over. She would hear the gunman's voice, see Milton's terrified eyes, smell the duct tape, and feel Isaac's hands on her shoulders. Was there a moment she could have stopped it? If so, had she let herself believe it would never happen just to ease her own guilt? Sometimes she convinced herself she was a victim, nothing more. Other times, alone in the concrete cell, a darker voice asked if she had wanted it to happen all along. Across the state, Isaac was trying to settle into his own new reality. Prison was not kind to him. Inmates had no love for wife killers, and rumors about his twisted affair made him a target. He tried to bury himself in the prison church group, confessing to anyone who would listen, reading scripture and searching for forgiveness. But every night he still dreamed of Angel. Her perfume, the way she'd laughed, the way she'd confided in him. He wondered if she still thought of him or if she had completely turned against him. One night, unable to sleep, Isaac wrote a letter of his own. "I did what you asked. I did it for you. And you left me." He never sent it. In 2022, 4 years after Milton's death, Angel's new appellate attorney, a fiery public defender named Carla Reyes, filed a motion to reopen the case. Carla argued that Angel had never truly conspired to kill her husband but rather had been emotionally blackmailed by Isaac, manipulated, and used. Carla hinted there were witnesses who had never been called and evidence left unexplored, text messages that might change the entire narrative. The appeals court agreed to hear arguments. And just like that, the whole twisted drama was back in the spotlight. Milton's children were furious. They had rebuilt their lives as best they could. Caleb, Milton's oldest son, had become an engineer. He was dating, thinking of proposing, and trying to find normal after so much pain. But the appeal threatened to rip open wounds that had barely healed. "She did this," Caleb told a reporter. "She had him murdered. My dad is dead because of her. That's all there is." He didn't want to relive those late-night phone calls from detectives, the day they showed him his father's body, but the law would not let it rest. Reporters tracked down Isaac's old pastor, Lou, who still lived in Oregon. Lou had spent years wondering if he had done the right thing turning Isaac in. He had loved Isaac like a son, tried to mentor him, and believed in him. Sometimes he wondered if he had failed Isaac somehow. He agreed to testify again if needed, to talk about the day Isaac showed up at his back door with red eyes and a trembling voice, confessing to murder. Lou's wife, Lori, was less forgiving. "He killed a man," she said, and he tried to excuse it with some twisted idea of love. Nothing could justify that. In a packed courtroom in 2023, Angel appeared again, wearing a beige prison jumpsuit, her hair streaked with gray now. Carla Reyes, her attorney, argued that Angel had been trapped, terrified, and unable to stop Isaac. "She never ordered Milton's murder," Carla said passionately. "She was a victim of coercive control." Prosecutors fired back. They replayed Isaac's confession line by line, showing messages from Angel that suggested she wanted Milton gone. The judges listened, stone-faced, asking pointed questions. Was Angel complicit, or just too weak to break free of a dangerous lover? They brought Isaac back to the stand, this time in shackles, thinner than before, older and haunted. His voice shook as he answered. "I loved her," he said. She told me she couldn't leave him. I thought if I helped her we'd be together." Did she ever say the words, "Kill Milton"? Carla pushed. Isaac stared at the floor. No, he whispered. Not in those words. Carla jumped on it. So you took it upon yourself? Isaac was quiet for a long time. Yes. The courtroom erupted. After court that day, Caleb stood outside, breathing cold winter air, hands shoved in his pockets. He couldn't believe this was happening again. The woman who destroyed their family might walk free. His sister hugged him, tears in her eyes. What if they let her out? She asked. Caleb swallowed hard. Then we'll fight it, he said. For Dad. In town, opinion was split. Some still believed Angel had masterminded it, a black widow spinning webs. Others, especially after Isaac's testimony, began to see her as a desperate woman who had fallen under the sway of a manipulative man. Facebook groups and radio shows lit up with debates. Had the justice system gone too far? Or not far enough? A local journalist was granted a visit with Angel at the women's correctional facility. In the sterile visitor room, Angel looked tired, smaller somehow. She picked at a paper cup of water, voice low. I never wanted him to die, she said. I swear to God. Why didn't you call the police when Isaac started talking about killing Milton? The reporter asked. Angel's eyes grew distant. I didn't think he would actually do it, she whispered. I thought he was just talking. The reporter scribbled furiously. Then why didn't you warn Milton? Angel closed her eyes. Because, she said, voice breaking, I was afraid Milton would hate me. In his own cell, Isaac kept writing letters he never sent. Angel, I don't know why you turned on me. You told me you couldn't leave him. You said you loved me. I believed you. Sometimes he tore them up. Other times he saved them, hidden in a Bible. The appeals panel took weeks to decide. Angel sat in prison, every day 1,000 years long, imagining freedom, imagining seeing her children again, or never seeing them at all. Milton's family waited too, hearts in their throats. Finally, in a crowded courtroom, the lead judge delivered the ruling. After consideration of the record, this court finds no reversible error. The convictions stand. Angel collapsed forward, shoulders shaking. Milton's family cried, hugging one another in relief. The drama, it seemed, was over. 3 months later, a guard at the women's prison intercepted a letter from Angel addressed to an unknown contact in California. In careful handwriting, Angel wrote, I will never stop fighting. Isaac lied about more than you know. There are things he did that no one has found yet. I can prove it. And signed it, Angel. What did she mean? What new secrets? Had she been pulling the strings all along, or was she still, even now, a pawn in someone else's twisted obsession? The letter smuggled out of prison had set off alarm bells for the warden. Who was this unknown California contact? What did Angel mean by things Isaac did that no one has found yet? Law enforcement intercepted it and turned it over to the prosecutor's office, worried Angel was plotting to escape or worse. But when a detective read it carefully, something clicked. Maybe she was telling the truth about a missing piece of the puzzle. They decided to investigate, one last time. In Angel's letter, she mentioned a phone Isaac had bought for her, one they used to talk in secret, then discarded in a panic before the murder. According to Angel, that phone might hold messages, photos, and proof of what she claimed, that Isaac had been obsessed and violent and that she tried to break things off. Detectives pulled old search warrants, tracking down cell phone tower pings and reviewing receipts. Finally, they found it, an old burner phone in a pawn shop's lost and found bin, gathering dust in a cardboard box. The evidence team opened it with gloved hands. The screens were cracked and the battery was long dead. But inside they found fragments of text. A forensics lab reconstructed the broken phone's data. Some text had been deleted but not completely wiped. One message jumped out. You promised you'd leave him. If you won't, I will do it for you. And another. Please don't come here tonight, I'm scared. We can talk tomorrow. The dates lined up, the night before Milton died. When those messages went public, the town gasped. Had Angel really tried to stop Isaac? Her lawyer, Carla Reyes, filed a fresh appeal based on the new evidence. If these messages are authentic, Carla argued, Angel made it clear she wanted no part of murder. For Milton's family, it was agony. Again. Caleb's hands trembled as he read the news. Please don't come here tonight. Was that real or another manipulation? In a special evidentiary hearing, the judge reviewed the new evidence. Isaac was brought back to testify. Years older, voice flat, eyes distant. Did Angel tell you not to come that night? The prosecutor demanded. Isaac stared at the floor. She told me she was scared, he finally admitted. Then why did you go? Isaac swallowed hard. Because I loved her, he said softly. And I thought I could fix everything. For the first time, Angel took the stand herself. Tears streaked her face as she spoke to the judge, voice shaking. I was terrified. I let him believe things I shouldn't have. I was lonely and I was stupid. But I never ever wanted Milton dead. The court fell silent. After days of testimony, the judge made the final call. While the new evidence is troubling, he ruled, this court cannot overturn a jury conviction based on what may be ambiguous, incomplete communications. Angel broke down, shoulders heaving as the gavel fell. Life in prison reaffirmed. Back in Elizabeth City, the antique shop stood boarded up, dust collecting where once Milton's laughter had filled the aisles. The community tried to heal, but scars remained. Caleb started a scholarship in his father's name for kids interested in entrepreneurship. The Sawyer children carried on, building families of their own, determined to live differently. In prison, Isaac finally stopped writing letters. In a prison ministry session, he stood and spoke to a small circle of inmates. What I did, he said, voice low, was evil. Love doesn't kill. He closed his Bible and a long silence settled over the room. Angel remained behind bars. In quiet moments, she would replay Milton's final look. The confusion, the betrayal, the heartbreak. Nothing could ever erase that. She kept writing letters, some to her children, some to strangers, trying to explain how everything had gone so terribly wrong. But in the stillness of her cell, there was no one left to convince. Elizabeth City would never quite recover from the shock. Neighbors still talked about the perfect couple who crumbled under lies and temptation. Church sermons turned the tragedy into a cautionary tale about faithfulness, honesty, and the poison of secret affairs. In local legend, the Sawyer home became a ghost story, a place where love turned to death, where trust was forever broken. Milton Sawyer's grave sits on a gentle hill, shaded by an old oak tree. His children still visit, laying flowers and telling him about graduations, jobs, weddings, and grandchildren. They tell him they miss him, that they will never let him be forgotten. No one would ever really know 100% whether Angel had truly planned Milton's death, or merely been swept along in Isaac's obsession. What was undeniable was this. Milton was gone, the victim of a love triangle so toxic it left nothing but wreckage in its wake. Isaac, once a healer turned killer, would die in prison someday, remembering a woman he thought he could save. Angel, once the picture of a wife and mother, would grow old behind bars, haunted by her choices. And Elizabeth City, that quiet, trusting town, would never look at a perfect couple the same way again.